In this week's Dice Commando video, I'm joined by Alex from AshenWingzTCG, and we are going to talk everything there is about Mistveil as it applies to Commoner, and yes, of course, some Clash. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando for another midweek Commoner update. But this time, it's not just me talking at the channel. I am joined by Alex, aka AshenWingz, and right now on the screen, you have, at least to the best of my knowledge, the two individuals in the content creator community who do the vast majority of the Commoner content. So, how are we doing, my friend?
We're doing fantastic, Andrew. Honestly, it's a pleasure to be here, and I love talking about commons as much as you do. And this is a really great discussion we're going to have tonight because Part the Mistveil really just brings a lot to the game. I personally believe, but I'm very excited to talk about Commoner and all the things that come with it. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well, to put it in context, you may notice that the background is not a Part the Mistveil background. We instead went with the Marvel Ashwing in honor of our guest this evening. So why don't you let folks who may not know you know where they can find you, who you are, and what your story is.
Yeah, absolutely. So, lucky for me, AshenWingz has been my handle on the internet for quite some time, well before Flesh and Blood was even a game that was released. And I was very, very lucky enough to, back when I was playing Magic right around 2019, 2020. Previous to that, I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in the 2011, 2013 era, but was playing Magic right around 2019, 2020. I started hearing about Flesh and Blood. Didn't know if I had the gall to push myself into a new game. And it wasn't until the release of Uprising where I went, well, you're telling me that there's a hero that creates AshenWingz. I have to play. This is just it, right? It was destined to be. And so I got a couple boxes. I opened up my very first Marvel Dragon in my first Uprising box, and I went, you're sold. You've got me for life. I'll throw everything else that I have to the wind. I dive deeper into the community, and I've been a pretty avid lover of Flesh and Blood in all of its aspects since. So, yeah.
Awesome. And you cover Clash as well as Commoner. And why don't you tell folks how involved you are within the Clash community?
Yeah, so I am actually a member of the Clash committee. We do kind of look over where the fun resides for the format. Being a fan format, it's not like you often see this at things like LGSs, and you haven't really seen it anywhere outside of just kitchen table kind of stuff. But with the announcement of tons of new heroes entering the format, a bunch of young heroes, this is really a time where we kind of had to hunker down. We wanted to make sure what was good for the format, what was, kind of poor for the format. And even still right now, we're in a lot of our testing phases. So we just want to make sure that people are having fun playing the heroes they love and make that our core rule set, right? We don't want to just handicap a hero to the point where they can't be played anymore. We want to make sure that people are having a good time and also not feeling that there's a one-trick pony deck that will win against everything. But that's my contribution to the Clash committee. I'm constantly making videos on my channel in regards to making the Clash Bash stuff that we've been doing. We've been having gameplay videos for Clash Bash, and I love the format a lot, and so I want to keep spreading the word.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and hop into, as you mentioned, the new set hitting and trying to figure that out. And actually, interestingly enough, for Clash, most of the cheat cards, actually all of the cheat cards that would be legal in Clash, with the exception of the 3 specs, I believe, as per your rules, would be legal basically in Commoner already. So you kind of get double dip testing out of both of those formats, I suppose, in terms of the chi stuff. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I like the fact this was something that I was genuinely curious about when they first announced Chi. We saw it with the 3 Majestic Chi cards, and they're not, they aren't specializations, unfortunately. So
they're not specs.
Yeah, they're actually just legendary, not specializations. So we do not get to use them in Clash, but when I saw that they had chi cards in common, both my commoner heart and my clash heart was very happy, because I wanted to make sure that they were able to do what the heroes wanted to do in every format. And if commoner got, I mean, even if commoner got 2 chi cards, I feel like it still would have been very good. But it's nice that they have what, 8 now. Yeah, so that's really, really good, and it allows for a lot of different utilizations. They all have pretty low power, but also different abilities to each of them. So it does actually help out pretty well.
Okay, well, let's get into it. So where do you see, what's your overall take on the impact of this set to commoner?
I say overall, there's a lot of very, very, I shouldn't say a lot of very powerful cards. I mean, there are quite a few. I think that I'm going to, get my take out of the way here. I think new is incredibly dangerous into commoner personally, simply because a lot of the decks at the top tables run a decent amount of blues. Bravo runs a lot of blues. Icelander is a ton of blues. Ira needs those blues to attack with Kodachis, and you even have Decimator Olympia or Decimator Dory need blues to attack with their axe. So it's very much so a great way for her to just kind of gather a whole bunch of stuff into the Banished Zone and then use it later on in the game. Not to mention that all of her on hits are something that you just can't let them hit, because even though they only come in for 3 in most cases, New's attack reactions are crazy powerful in common. I often said we won't get, unless I'll go into specific cards later as we kind of go over them, but I believe that the attack reactions that New got made her the best one in the format compared to Zen and Enigma. But we did get some good generics too. There's Water the Seeds, I think, is a really good generic from this set. So,
well, and if I can't keep up, I'll do it in overlay, folks. I promise.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. So yeah, I think Water the Seeds, an awesome generic. That one is. It's essentially. I personally think you're going to see it a lot in Ira, because it's you go Kodachi, Water the Seeds for 4, go again, give your next Kodachi +1. Then you get to come in with a little bit more. So it's a little bit more of a spread of damage, and you add a little breakpoint in there. It is just damage. It's not like a crazy on hit or anything, but it is super fun to see all the different things that are added in here. And I don't know, what is one of your favorite things to come from commoner personally? I mean, is there any of these heroes catch your eye? Or are you still Bravo for life,
No, I think New's pretty scary for exactly the points you mentioned. We have one player local, give a shout out, Steven. He's actually one of the original pilots of the Decimator within our community, Olympia within our community. He's pretty hot on New. He thinks she can do some pretty stupid stuff. So we will see how this card particularly, which actually is already legal because it was in the Kayo deck.
That is true.
We'll see how this slows Ira down. Unfortunately, it's a 2-1 instead of a 1-2. But, it's better than nothing, I suppose. So we'll see what this card does. But
yeah. Any kind of damage prevention is pretty good, especially when it comes for small little pokes of damage. But I mean, hey, another popper in the format in case you end up going against some crazy illusionist stuff. But unfortunately, Enigma doesn't care so much about Phantasm. So
right.
Might not work.
Yeah. So talking Enigma, do you think she has the tools needed to get it done, so to say, in commoner?
Let's see. I think she has the ability to still present a decent amount of damage, strictly because, I mean, you don't have to deal with Phantasm, which has been a big problem for most illusionists in these young formats. But I don't think that any of her power cards were printed in common. I think that probably the most powerful card she's getting out of her commons this time around is the arm piece that she gets, that Uphold Tradition. Pretty good, because it allows to get that +1 onto an aura with ward to get a go again on something. That card, and then also Single-Minded Determination is actually my favorite common for Enigma, just because if you have no board, you can come in with a single-minded determination, and it will come in. You can attack for 1 for 5, go again with just that card alone. So I definitely think she's got the ability to prevent some damage for sure, but I don't believe her end game plan is there, because I think it's just really, there's just a lot of damage that other heroes can present. And especially with Ira coming in with the little pokes and dominate abilities from Bravo, and even, I mean, Icelander coming in with arcane damage. I mean, Icelander, you at least have, you know, as Enigma, you're probably going to have a lot more blues, so you can prevent a lot more of that. But I don't know how that matchup stands, even still, with Frostbites and so on and so forth.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually, because the Waning Moon, you know, usually you think of Waning Moon as being a non-traditional weapon, right? But actually against Ward, it's still pretty effective from the board clearing standpoint. So yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah. Tons of really, really good. I mean, tons of awesome, even Mystic cards you could probably put into the deck to really power through, get those, you know, if you played a blue, you get to do these things, or if you pitched a blue, you get to do these things. I believe that there could still be quite a significant board presence if you have, maybe you mix in D-Reacts or some other things, but I'm not sure if it's going to be enough to bring Enigma to maybe the top tables. But I guess we just have to see how many people can. It's a math game. You have to be able to clear a board nearly every single turn and hope that your opponent can't. Because even coming in with a, you know, pitch a blue, attack with a 1 for 5, go again, is still a lot to present if you've blocked out your entire opponent's turn with just the ward cards on your board. So it could be something that we see, but I don't know if it's going to be my personal favorite into the format.
Okay, now Zen, he has a pretty big bar to clear, with Ira being arguably the best hero in the format, depending on which side of the Icelander train you're sitting on, to be fair. So can he get it done? What does he bring that can potentially disrupt the format?
Well, I think if there's anything I'm excited the set did, is it allowed for heroes to kind of go that pure Tiger route. You know, Tiger Taming Kakara now being just a ninja weapon as opposed to Mystic. So we're now going to see a lot more variation, possibly, even though I think we both know Kodachis are by and far one of the best weapon combos in this entire format. But while I believe damage is good, I would have to be able to get a ton of Crouching Tigers and also have them deal damage.
Right.
And I don't feel like the sequencing is quite there yet. I feel like in Ira, having all of these additional points, you know, being able to make any of those Crouching Tigers that would come in for 0 just due to sequencing now come in for 1. I think that's really, really powerful on her end. Zen, on the other hand, though, it seems like Zen's whole concept in Commoner is strictly to just get Key Unleashed to your hand as fast as possible and just try to pummel through. I've heard that there's rumor that he's supposed to be more defensive. We've seen defensive Iras in the format as well, in regards to playing all the, you know, D-Reacts and kind of waiting just to poke them down with their Kodachis. But Zen specifically, I feel like his hero power doesn't do enough in this format to make it scary, because a lot of the combo cards that he ended up getting for specifically the Crouching Tiger lines are in Majestic. And so it's kind of rough to compare that. I'm happy to see that some of the cards got, I believe, if I recall correctly, Flex Clause was not a common previously. And so knowing Flex Clause is now a common is at least pretty helpful in regards to certain lines. But I don't know whether or not the package is enough. Untamed is going to be a must play in Zen, and Key Unleashed is going to be a must play. But again, I think it was a lot of reprints. I think Zen got a lot of reprints in this format, or in this set, compared to everybody else. And so he doesn't seem super new to the format of Commoner, because a lot of these cards we've just seen previously.
Sure. So let me throw out there, while we're on the topic of Tigers, I'm wondering if Benji's not actually poised to make a jump here. There's one card in specific I like, which is this one, Breed Anger. So you slide in. Oh, sorry, no, that's not the right one. It's the 2 version of it. Sorry, Biting Breeze, not Breed Anger. It's the 2 for 0, go again, and then you make a Crouching Tiger, and with his ability, then it's got a +1. It's a sneaky 2/1 unblockable there. Potentially even play the, it's effectively a double strike in not so many words, right? So that's 3 health that he has to recover, but then again, he gets to turn the, if he plays the Pouncing Paws and the Shuko, he can turn that into essentially an unblockable 2 on demand. So, you're starting to count 3 health pretty quick there back, as long as you can stay in front.
Yeah, I've always kind of been a Benji believer, just because I think the concept of having near unblockable besides armor attack actions is really, really powerful for a hero to have. And I know the +1 on Ira seems to be everybody's favorite, and it does do a lot for her in the format. But seeing all of these consistent low power combos with 2s and 1s and just being able to consistently plow that through, I agree. I think he's poised to do something. I'm certainly going to be trying something out with Benji, but again, I think because you even have Untamed Blue is a 2, and that's not too bad to play. You've got, obviously Pouncing Key. I think also the blue is, you can get +1 on that and have it also not be blocked. There's options for it, but I know Benji also fails in some other regards. I believe his specialization is a rare.
It's an M. It's an M.
Oh, it's an M. Okay, yeah, Springtide is an M. So yeah, definitely. There's a lot of places where Benji can succeed. I don't know if it's going to be in Commoner, but I'm certainly going to try it, because now that I can play Tiger Taming Kakara, right, and have it come in, like, you're able to bump those Crouching Tigers up, and if you're able to make a lot of them with Predatory Streak and things like that, like that'll work. That'll do good stuff.
Yeah, is there a way to buff tigers though in this? I mean, and by, I don't mean an individual tiger, but is there a way to like board buff or turn buff tigers in Commoner? I don't think there is, right? No. That's why it's kind of different, because you have to sequence a lot more here in Commoner. You don't have even the Jade Domain not a specialization, the Jade Domain Sacred Art for Zen, that's an M, is a board buff for tigers, much like Roar of the Tiger is. But in here, we just have give your next Crouching Tiger +X, and it's usually just +1. So small amount of value, and you have to sequence it properly. Otherwise, your tigers are still going to come in for 0. You have to make sure you're not breaking the chain, because some of these cards that pump other tigers care about what chain link or what combat chain you're on. So you can't play actions to pump and then move on to the next one, because it's gonna break your chain, and then you're gonna have to reset all that. And a lot of sequencing for 1 damage feels kind of bad. But I do think that, especially because heroes at 20 health, there's an opportunity for something there. Yeah, I mean, you could potentially slide through that they can't do anything about 5 damage turn 0 if you can go first. So yeah. All right. Well, so with that said, do you expect you mentioned very well, you articulated very well the threats to the top 4 with New. So even if, let's say, New's not a top tier hero, the fact that they're top tier and then crippled by New, does her presence alone shift the meta potentially? I do believe that. I think her presence is enough to make people worry, but there is still a little bit of a special way you'd probably need to play her. You can't just go strictly aggro. Again, her attack reactions are really, really insane. So I'm expecting fatigue style news. I'm expecting aggro style new. The ripping away blues is just ridiculous. And I don't know if anybody has read Intimate Inducement, which is a common attack reaction that she gets in this set. It is way, way, way too powerful, and I personally believe it should be a rare. I think this card has no business being as good as it is, being able to rip a blue from your opponent's deck and then put it onto the chain link so it can then be banished.
it's that gives her a free card to play with Chi. It makes sure your opponent doesn't have resources in their deck, and they slowly but surely are hitting all red hands, and they can't do anything about it. It's just not. I don't know whether or not it's going to be debilitating to every hero, because obviously if you can get in Bravo, if you can, thump an opponent before they get anything crazy done, I think that you're still going to win that race because your damage is going to be so much higher. But I do believe all of her attack reactions block for 3, and they also make 2 attack reactions in that same realm. I don't know, like, do you still play Macho Grande Blue into new, or do you switch it out for something else?
I think it's a fair question. I mean, in Commoner, with the vast majority of heroes you need to be concerned about, you don't have a ton of flexibility. And granted, if she's a better hero, then you choose that over something else. I grant that. But, this is an interesting point. I hadn't thought about this. I assumed this card was a common because they needed it for draft to work, or they needed it for her to work in draft. But I didn't really think about that. This is pretty strong as a common.
It's really strong. It's really strong as genuinely, if we see, it's obviously all speculation, but when I first read this card, I didn't quite grasp it. And then I read it again and I was like, yeah, +1 on a red, that doesn't seem super great, but it's not the attack value you're looking for. You've got other attack reactions you can play in the deck that'll give additional damage, and you don't even need to hit. It's not even about hitting. You just look at the top cards of your opponent's deck. You get to know what their hand is for their next turn. You get to have a general idea about where they're looking to make their own plays. And more importantly, you can rip a blue or any card. If you're really looking to just rip a power card from their deck, you can go ahead and just put that down on the chain link and go, okay, you're blocking with this one too. And now it's going to get banished. This also, if you didn't know, turns the transcend cards into cards that can block. So you can rip Chi from your opponent's deck right into the banish zone. So it's very well, it won't be into the banish zone because it's an instant still, but it does get to the graveyard. So that is still a way for you to you're getting resources out of your opponent's deck. I think it's insane that I still think this is insane. It's common.
Yeah, fair enough. And while we're here, actually, the chakras are very interesting for your format for Clash.
Oh yeah. Chakra is it is still situational because it's not like the other cards in which it's just, pitch a blue, you get a bonus. This one you have to transcend, which in most cases you will. But coming in for +5 is a lot. 1 for 5 bonus. On hit, banish 2 cards from a Bonds of Memory. You can banish 1 card from the top of their deck and then another card from their graveyard. This whole concept, even Bonds of Memory alone, if anybody's trying to play Fi, which I know Fi hasn't seen a lot of play since Stubby's ban, but the fact that you can just banish cards from your opponent's graveyard with this, if it hits, that gets rid of their Phoenix Flames. Fi is unplayable not unplayable, I shouldn't say, but
then, why are you playing him?
Yeah, exactly. He's not unplayable, but let's be honest, right? He loses his entire hero power off of that, and that loses out on a lot of Salt the Wound turns and so on and so forth. So it's very niche. This is a card that if you are playing Fi, you want to make sure that you're blocking. You throw your whole hand at this thing because attack reactions will get rid of your Phoenix Flame. Absolutely. Or play 3.
Or play 3.
Or two, I guess. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, interesting discussion. Any other kind of quick thoughts you had on Commoner?
Well, I mean, as far as it goes, I think Commoner is still it's a pretty comfortable place. I like the bans that just recently went through with the Amulet of Ice and the Stubbies. I don't think that it was incredibly debilitating, but I haven't played too much top table Commoner for a while. But I know Icelander getting any kind of removal, something that we've even been looking into in the Clash format is, looking into possibly Aether Ice Vein. Is it too powerful in a format where you have to essentially AB4 or lose out on everything, right? So it's an interesting thing. I think the format does really well. I'm really, really happy to see that Decimator Olympia is making a charge towards the top, because I thought for sure it was just going to be Ira, Icelander, Bravo, until Runeblades got some insane support that allowed them to do that. But it seems that, with the right minds on it, you're able to. That's the best part about
All right, fair enough. Well, I don't remember exactly where we were, but let's go ahead and move into the next part then. So Commoner and Clash, two very different, but two very similar but different communities. So how have you been able to navigate in your local community and your wider community, both of those games and those communities working together?
Yeah, well, I mean, luckily, the power of Commoner is still pretty relevant in Clash. The only difference is, some heroes get access to more support, right? I think there's the whole reason, I'm not sure if this is actually true, but it sounds like something that would happen is the reason Clash was created is because Levia wasn't super playable in Commoner back in the day. And so Ethan Van Sant wanted to have some power and at least still have a fairly budget level of play. And so we saw that happen with Clash. And now Levia has a demi hero in Clash, so she is quite powerful. But it is both communities tend to have very differing opinions, and I think the really big concern here for a lot of people is that Commoner is a official format and Clash is not. And a lot of people who are dedicated to TCGs tend to believe that fan-made formats, even though, you look at things like Commander for Magic and so on and so forth, they had to have started somewhere. And we certainly don't expect LSS to just contact us one day and go, hey, your format is our format now, and we're all going to hang out together, and you guys are going to lose your whole committee. We're in charge of this. You guys had a great idea. Now it's our idea. We believe that, we just want people to have fun. I think that's our whole concept. And we like that the Commoner and the Clash communities can come together in creating ideas for decks that are not strictly just like the rares that make the deck good. We have tons of people from Commoner communities that I know are in our Clash leagues. And I've even talked to a bunch of people who have strictly said that they were looking to try out a slightly higher power Commoner comparatively. This is, again, a format where we want people to be able to still be fairly competitive in it, but it's more so for a casual social fun thing. We want you to play the heroes that you want to play. We want you to figure out strategies based on the huge amount of cards that get released in every single set, because now it's not just commons, it's also the rares and also any specializations. And we like to make our changes strictly on that. Some people believe, at least from what I've seen in some Commoner chats, is that they believe our ban lists or our restricted section of the format is a little too tweaked specifically to make it so people don't get to play the things they want. A lot of people believe that Chane without Rosetta Thorn is just boring. And in Clash, we have a restriction that only Briar is allowed to play Rosetta Thorn as her weapon,
as it should have been from the beginning.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people I've heard a lot of people talk about that exact same mindset, where they believe that it should have been an elemental Runeblade weapon to begin with, which is why that kind of change went through. We don't want to have it to where one thing is ruining it for everybody else. And I don't believe that Rosetta Chane in Commoner is, it's not the boogeyman. We're not waiting on anything crazy there, but we've talked about other things. We want to do some more general testing and kind of really make the format our own. We do use the Commoner ban list for the format, but we've also talked about maybe, nixing that, maybe not doing that, and instead seeing where the format will go with no ban list at all and just restrictions to certain things, and possibly seeing where that goes. But of course, we want to do that in a contained environment where it's about fun and data gathering, as opposed to something where like a bunch of money is on the line. Our Clash leagues are all free to enter, so you don't need to worry about losing out on any kind of money. It's all, you're there to have fun. There's prizes for people who enter. And I don't know. I like that there's still that creativity that you get in Commoner, but now you have just an extra little bit of card pool into it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Now, have you? So, I would say that one of Commoner's largest weaknesses is that it's the most evergreen format out there, and whether it's a weakness today is debatable. But 10 years down the road, every hero will be legal.
Yep.
Still, which is great. Except you start to see this point where, like, Ira is just fundamentally amazing.
Yeah.
Right. So she will probably always continue to be there. Have you, in the Clash format, because you again have more flexibility, have you thought about doing some sort of like hero rotation system? And I don't mean it like for never playable, but like top, these are the 15 that we're going to do this season. These are the 15 we're going to do this season, or something like that. Have you considered that? Has that been tossed around at all?
It has been tossed around because it's also the fact that Clash has an even bigger evergreen card hero pool, because we get to use formats or we get to use heroes of every single rarity,
right,
as opposed to just rare and common. So there's a lot of back end stuff we had to make Prism Advent of Thrones Angels be specific specializations for her only, so that old Prism couldn't use the angels. And so there's going to be a lot, if we keep that in line, there's going to be a lot of times in which we're going to look at that, and we're going to have to look back at the 20 heroes that happened to release this year and go, well, do we make changes somewhere? As of right now, we have no like direct plan to do something like that, but I think it would be fun to do when we do our leagues, to do fun, Runeblade only leagues or Arcane only leagues or something of the sort, just to kind of, again, bring that joy to people wanting to just kind of try some stuff out and play. Mm-hmm. But we also don't want to make it incredibly stale. We don't want to go, hey, you guys, everybody won. The top 8 of our Clash League was all Briar because we unbanned Duskblade and let people use Channel Mount Heroic for some reason. And it's like, we don't want that to happen. But that's, again, a lot of Clash. The purpose of the committee is strictly to make sure that Nathan, who is one of the people who's essentially headed it after Ethan passed it over to him, that he doesn't have to do all this just on his own. He's just like you. He's a fab dad. He's got a day job. He's doing stuff. And so I'm always happy to help in that regard and help gather the data so we know what a meta even looks like. Because right now we're not even sure what our own meta looks like. Commoner has a pretty significant meta, and luckily Olympia got to sneak his way into there. Mm-hmm. But for Clash, we are under the idea that, of course, Ira is very powerful fundamentally, and I actually brought Ira to the top tables in the finals of our first Clash Bash, but I didn't win. And so there's a lot to put into effect. Specializations are also a big deal, because some specializations are really powerful and some specializations are not. So we don't want to nitpick and make it so like one hero gets to play the way they want, but another hero does not. So I'm not sure. I think making them fun little rotations. Maybe we just do first 3 set heroes and then the next 3 set heroes and then so on and so forth is a way to make the game more fun. Mm-hmm. But overall, as far as an evergreen meta, there's going to be a lot to consider with a bunch of new heroes coming out on a regular basis. So it's a lot of data to go through, right, without knowing the final numbers, right?
Right. And you are at a disadvantage in terms of being a community run coalition like you are. You're at a disadvantage compared to something like Commander, because they are 100 card singleton and you're playing real fab.
Exactly.
Right. So not having that singleton check valve for the completely busted card that maybe you top deck once in a while. Anyway, that's a significant disadvantage, right? So
yeah, I believe it is definitely something that is, it's not that it's exactly unique, right? There's not anything insanely unique about it. That's also something I've heard from Commoner and even from Blitz players. who have said it's not exactly unique. It's just lower powered Blitz or higher powered Commoner, but it's not its own identity, it seems. So I think that's where, we don't want to take away from the concept of Flesh and Blood, though. And I think that's really what it comes down to. We don't want to make a format that people are going to feel foreign in if they transfer out from Clash to go play Blitz professionally, or if they go play Classic Constructed. We want people to have fun, and if they move on to a different format because that's what they want, perfect. We want to make sure that there's a door for people to get in and enjoy the game and see that it's not just only Classic Constructed and nothing else matters. There's a whole slew of things. I mean, take a look at UPF. UPF was a big deal for heavy hitters. They made it a draft format, and I like seeing that LSS is willing to take that opportunity to do that. But I don't know. I think we still have fun doing it. It still holds kind of almost that Blitz power level without needing to play legendaries or majestics. So
yeah. And that's, one of the, we do hear that a lot. Commoner's boring, play Clash instead, right? I get that comment on, I'd say 50% of my videos or so, right?
I bet.
And I think that stems from the fact that you don't really have the ability in Commoner to combo, right? For the most part, your combos are maybe like, oh, I was able to set up a Katsu or something like that. That's about the extent of it. So I hear that feedback. I mean, it's not like I have anything to do with the feedback. I hear the feedback and I understand. I think it's just like you mentioned, Clash is a more similar to Real Fab, whereas Commoner is its own format. So
yeah. I think that's. I personally don't believe Commoner to be boring, for the record. I know that it can be boring for some people who prefer a higher power level. And especially in a highly competitive game like Flesh and Blood, to give somebody to give somebody a deck that is full of legendaries and majestics, and they're really, winning their armories and they're doing a whole bunch of fun stuff, and then they want to take a break from the format and go play something like Commoner, they might not find the same power level that they desire in the game. And that's fine. That's, again, I think Commoner is one of those crucial points to where you want to be able to get people into the game and have a wide swath of heroes to make it a nice variety for people to play. Let them know that there's not just, two heroes at the top tables and that's it. There's people who can swing by and win with Dromeyes, or they can win with a Prism, or they can win with something. And there's always the opportunity for that to happen. I feel like Commoner is a great pillar, but I do understand that people want power level to some of their decks to be able to do those combos. And that is kind of where Clash comes in.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, as we move to sunset this, first off, I want to thank you for taking the time. It was great to chat, and I'm sure that in the future we will bring you back.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be on here. I was overjoyed when you let me know if you wanted me to come on the little cast, and I was very, very happy about it. I love talking about these budget formats and these onboarding formats like Commoner, and I also wanted to voice my opinion on how insane New is looking into Commoner. So hopefully that was conveyed a little bit here.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, any shout outs you want to give before we get out of here?
Well, I mean, we can go ahead and shout out the Fab Clash Discord. I have it in every single one of my videos over on my channel, which is AshenWingzTCG. So you can always go ahead and find me there. And just shout out to the devs for wanting to continue to, move things through with different formats and not strictly stick to one. I do think that the creativity of the community, whether it be Commoner or Clash or Blitz or UPF or whatever it might be, is really what's going to continue to drive more casual play, more fun tabletop play to LGSs, and continue to grow the game. And it's something that is very near and dear to my heart, because I love this game a lot and I wanted to see it succeed in not just the competitive sense, because obviously it is, but I want to thank everybody here, and big shout out to you, Andrew. Big shout out to you, because you're killing it here, also covering Commoner when not many other people are. So,
well, fair enough. So, all right. Well, thank you again. And you got to say it with me, man. Go Commando.
go Commando.